Hey, Fabi. So I see Energy Fuels is over $3 a share USD. What's up
I
with that?
know. I know. I'm actually in the green by double digits. Can you believe it? Never thought that would happen. I should take a screenshot of my portfolio and just
let's
like
let's
frame
hear
it.
let's hear your thoughts on uranium.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole like couple of hours on uranium, but I've actually said most of the things that I have actually been thinking about this whole market in the last maybe 2 or 3 videos that I posted on my channel. So
Yep.
I am very excited about uranium right now. It's probably about 70% of my portfolio. And I just, the previous times when the price of uranium went up, and when I'm saying previous times, I'm talking about the last maybe 2 years or so. Um, I didn't even take notice of it because, not because they died out, but it just didn't feel like there were enough catalysts to make for a very solid case for a multi-year run for the miners. And I think that right now there are just so many different independent reasons as to why the price of uranium is due to go much, much higher. And that is what's really exciting me. Just yesterday, I don't know if you guys follow this, but just yesterday, there was a bipartisan bill announced by the Senate about putting, not restrictions, what's the name? Sanctions on Russian trade, which involved oil, energy, and it includes uranium. And that was highlighted in,
Yes.
in the piece of
Yeah.
news. And so you have, for example, U.S. uranium miners, which have pretty much become extinct except for I think two of them that are publicly listed companies, Euro Energy and Energy Fuels. And if you look at their long-term share price, it's just it makes you want to cry almost, especially if at the thought that somebody did buy at the very highs and maybe they're holding it to the lows, and the run up doesn't even register in the long term price chart. So that tells you a lot about how much suffering there has been for the last almost 10 years in the uranium space. But, there's this bill which, if you put a sanction on uranium imports into the US, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that's 20% of, uranium that's used by utilities in the US, when the current supply from US uranium mines is around 3 to 5%. So let's take the higher number, 5%. If they are currently only supplying 5%, and then all of a sudden 20% of the whole market disappears, then how are they going to make up for that? I mean, they're just going to have to expand their production by many multiples, and I would assume very quickly. I don't understand precisely what the bill asks for. I haven't seen the actual bill. But my understanding is that a sanction is pretty much automatic. I don't think they phase it in. And so from one day to the next, you could have a situation where, the potential market for those miners is just, like 4 or 5 times as big as they are now. And that's separate to the 232 petition, which is actually asking for, 25% of the U.S. Supply to be sourced in the U.S. And so you have two completely different catalysts that are just amazing. In any other industry that hasn't been hated for this long as uranium, you would have the prices double or triple pretty much overnight. And then you have Cameco shutting down McArthur River, which is a juicy mine that actually produces good quality uranium at somewhat cheap prices. And you have all those different catalysts that don't depend on each other working all at the same time. And this is what's actually very surprising to me, because this is all within the last, 6 to 12 months maximum, you know? And so you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, how can the price of this commodity not go up when supply is being restricted so much, and sometimes for political reasons, you know? I mean, it doesn't take much to understand what the deal is with the Trump administration regarding things that have a Russian label on it or a uranium label on it and things like that. And so, to me, I'm just super excited. Always wish I had more money, you know, to invest in all of the same companies that I'm already in. And just for the people who have been following this, and, you know, if you've been around the block a couple of times, you'll see this. The best companies aren't necessarily the ones that will make you the best return. And so when people ask me, like, what do you own? I'm very reluctant to tell them what I own because I think that some of the companies that I own in the uranium space will never produce. But I'm still buying them because I believe that even if they don't produce, they are going to be looked at as more valuable than they are today by a multiple of maybe 5 to 10 fold. And yeah, exactly. And the thing is that I see a lot of people, and we were talking somewhat on this topic previously, but there are a lot of people that will only look at the fundamental value of the project. So they ask themselves, is this ever going to become a mine? And like I said, I don't have the skills to tell you whether something's going to become a mine or not. But I can tell you that Ross Beatty, who is respected by almost everybody in this business, produced his biggest success, Lumina Copper, sold off everything, made multiple millions for himself and his shareholders. And today, none of those copper projects are being mined.
What a great point.
You know, and so if you're going to be gung-ho on only buying next gen, for instance, sure, go ahead. I mean, I bought Ivanhoe because it was undervalued and the project is just amazing on top of amazing on top of amazing. But I bought it not just because it was amazing, but because it was amazing and it was undervalued. And so I made money on that, broke my profits, beautiful. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Ivanhoe made more money than some little tiny, you know, copper / silver / gold play that went up 50-fold purely on speculation. Now, you have to ask yourself, are you in this to be a mine builder, or are you in this to make money? Because I want to make money more than I want to guess which of the 1 in 3,000 projects are going to become an economic mine. Like, that's too bad of an odd. I'd rather take my money and, you know, like, go to the casino or something. And so, fine, I will, you know, lend people's or borrow people's opinions if they have a good track record on what they think is going to become a mine. Great, I might risk some money into that, onto their advice. But I will take my money and put it where I think I'm going to get the highest return. And sometimes it's the crappiest of companies. Like, we have to accept that that is the market. If you look at a uranium company that 2 months ago, and you know that this is something that I was able to participate in, company 2 months ago was under 5 million market cap, and today it's over 10 million. You know, what has changed? Well, the story around uranium has changed, but I don't think the company is ever going to produce. Do I care? No. Would I recommend that stock? Not necessarily, because people misunderstand that when you say, I am buying this stock, some people hear that this is a great mine, and that might not be true at all. So people need to start discerning the difference between where you're going to make money and, you know, which projects are likely to become a mine. And they're so far and few between. Like, it's just hard to find a real mine. Sometimes you get a project that looks good, and then to get the stuff out of the ground is just like so expensive, it's just not worth it. I mean, look at, I think it's Seabridge that has just a huge project, and it's just been sitting for years because it's too expensive to get it out of the ground. There's the Pebble project in Alaska. That stuff, like, there is so many million ounces, I can hardly count that high. But the project hasn't gone anywhere. how am I going to know when they're drilling and the results are looking really great that that's going to become a mine or not? I just don't know. And so I take that sort of more psychological strategy to the market of where is the money going to go towards, and where can I get the best bang for buck, regarding return on my investment. So I know it's a risky game. Not everybody likes it, but I think the sooner that people realize that this is more of a psychological game than an actual fundamental project game, then I think there's more money to be made that way.
Oh, just a button real quick. This is so funny. Like, Sokoman is now 41.5 cents, up 33% for the day.
Dang it, we should call this off and go buy some.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember the same kind of thing was happening with Northern Shield, a year and a half ago or a couple years ago, and it's like, what's the hot stock? But it is kind of amazing to follow this, and I really do like following the CEO, level 2, and just like all those bids moving up. So sorry, that's just unrelated to the uranium talk, but what we were talking about.
We're equally interested in stuff like that too. Even if we're just sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn and watching it.
Yeah, I really like the way you explain that, and I'll just add, people might already know this or have an idea of it. I agree with everything Fabi just said about like how to make money, and even especially what should work the best in the uranium space. But my take that has evolved over the last few years is really about trying to find discoveries that could, and I should put could in capital letters, like become an economic deposit. And it's interesting because I know I could play the psychological game better, but what I like is that with those early stage stories, you can find them that are trading close to a cash value, so that if they miss, they shouldn't go down too much, or if they did, it's much easier to have higher conviction. And if they have multiple opportunities, then you don't have to worry about it's like all done with just one missed hole. But it's not knowing that they'll become like a mine, but the exploration game is entirely different from the development and production game. I would actually put development and production more in the same boat, and exploration as a totally different animal. But I do feel strongly like I will be more satisfied, with myself, and like a big part of this does go beyond making money, even though making money is the final goal. But I would just love to be, participate in one of those and, have contributed. And that's how my portfolio has evolved over time. So, but I think the point you made about Ross Beatty and like his biggest win, which it really was Lumina Copper, was more in the optionality space. And the uranium space, I think, is very similar to that. But copper today is actually much more reliant on the discoveries. And even though I'm open to different commodities, one reason I love copper is that we really need those economic discoveries. And so it's cool to kind of like know that there's all these little companies out there, and that you could participate in that, and it really could become something real. But like you said, it doesn't matter if it becomes a mine or not. If you made money from it, like that's really the end goal.
Yeah, but you do as an investor, you yourself, Nick, and I'm not saying everybody, but you yourself, you want that almost intellectual exercise. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, because I'm just lazy. Like I want to make as much money as possible with the least amount of work, and so I'm just lazy. And because I'm willing to accept that, I buy the crap. But then I talk to people like you, who are more research inclined and smarter, and then I can decide where to put my money. But I think self-discovery is huge, and I think it takes a while. I'm only really starting to discover what I'm good at and what I'm bad at in my 30s. And so I would have tried to be all smart, in my earlier days, and try to pick stocks based on fundamentals and things like that. And I probably would have failed because there's a learning curve there. But I don't know. Knowing yourself, I think, is key.
Oh, Fabi, no, those are great insights. It's not about being smart. It's about knowing yourself, knowing how you get an edge. And I'll just, kind of brings up interesting like philosophical side, which we won't get deep into. But I'll tell you like straight up, I'm not a technical person, and somehow I was able to make a pretty good amount of money with Facebook games, and it was more about finding the right person and convincing them to just make games for Facebook when no one else wanted to. Like it was all about the contrarian. It was over 90% of it was being in the right place at the right time, which we've talked about. And this, you could purely just play macro trends and cycles, but what I've like kind of added to that is that I love the discovery space more, not because I'm super smart, but because so few other people care about the real discoveries. And of the people who do, and I don't want to belabor this point, but I look at Exploration Insights, really smart guys, Brent Cook and Joe Mazumdar, and I know for a fact that they are not looking across the board. And if they're the smartest guys, and there's some other smart guys too, who aren't looking at the smallest companies, that's what's so exciting, is that it's just actually knowing the company exists, and then I can go through my network, whether it's my broker Sam, or it's talking to people like you guys or people on CO.ca, and actually get an edge, on the Brent Cooks and the Joe Mazumdars of the world, and hope that they will pick that stock later on. Like that's the ultimate hope. It's not about beating somebody else, but it's about being there early, and then like it's like, oh yeah, like wow, I actually did this, and then I mean the most important part is like making a huge amount of money because everybody else is piling in later. And for people with Sokomon, I give them huge respect because I can't do that. I can't figure out how to hop onto this and like buy big. And I know there's people doing that all the time, whether it's Garibaldi or Sokomon. So I don't want to make that sound negative, but like what you were just describing, it's the same idea, but in the uranium space. And you're probably doing stuff with the placements that so few other people are doing, actually devoting so much time to just, finding, I don't know, most of the companies you're even talking about. So everybody's got to find their own niche. Like Jay's got his own way of looking at stuff too. And I just love that message. I think I could talk about that message all the time, like figure out your own strengths and weaknesses and, figure out how you get an edge. Everybody has something to offer.
Yeah, there's many ways to make money. I like the approach, Fabi. I mean, it's just like to be agnostic, and you get your gains where you can. At the end of the day, it's about making money. I think a lot of times when you invest too heavily into a story, then you kind of almost trip yourself out. You think you need to marry these stocks, right? Like you join these private chats or whatever. You talk to people, and then if you ever, I guess, admit to them later on down the line, like it was a nice run up and now I'm selling because I see better opportunity elsewhere. I mean, I've been called worse than that even, it's like you kind of have to kind of just, just chill out for a bit and just kind of be able to look at things and kind of realize, I guess, how deep you're getting into this, like going down this rabbit hole, like, is this what it's all about to be right? I guess there's like maybe a sense of pride if you get into a story early enough and you ride it out all the way through production and you can say, I was there from beginning to end. I mean, when I look at my holdings, I don't think there's anything that I hold today that I held like 2 years ago. Like almost everything is a flip. When you look at it from that approach, it's kind of like the one you're taking with uranium where, I mean, like, for example, like Next Gen is kind of, universally beloved by the community. It's the best project and all that. And, I think a lot of people get it and they realize it. But then, at the end of the day, you're just trying to make the best return possible for yourself. And that's through your own research, analysis, and, homework that you're doing to try to determine, is this the best vehicle for that? Or is there something perhaps, smaller cap in size that I can leverage off? Because it is a game of human, psychology and emotions that, that's really what it comes down to. That's what drives these stocks. And that, those are the moments that you're trying to capitalize on that, I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, I'm not going to condemn you and, just get all like worked up over something like that because I don't really think it matters. I mean, at the end of the day, again, you're just trying to make money for yourself. So whatever means that you have to utilize to get it, then, I'm on board with that. I support that. It's just, with these things, they tend to just kind of, we get too emotionally invested in it. And I think that kind of can screw up your mindset as well. So, Yeah, I'm trying to just try to detach as much as possible. I mean, like for myself, I try to stick to more stories that I think have a good shot of getting into production, and a lot of that is just to de-risk in the sense where you have this safety net where, worst case scenario, like the market falls apart, but it's a high quality enough project where they can build it themselves if they have to. The project will proceed, and you're not going to get like trapped with like just in this illiquid stock, and you have like stranded capital that you can't get out because there's no progress forward or there's no path forward. That's kind of the angle I look at it. But to be perfectly honest, I mean, there's no stock that I hold and have held all the way through. I usually flip these things well in advance to even a production decision. So at the end of the day, whether the mine gets built or not, usually that's not the most important thing for me. And I'm happy to just make profits and call it a day. So I'm just like totally on board with that approach where you don't fall in love with these individual companies.
I'll add a point because Fabi talked about being lazy. I really consider myself a lazy person, but I tell you,
gosh, we're doomed.
I can't believe how much I enjoy lazy. I really enjoy all this stuff. You know how Rick Rule talks about like he wakes up every day and it's a great day, or like Warren Buffett does, like, and he'd do this stuff for free. I actually don't know if Rick Rule would do it for free because he seems to like money a lot, but I like money too. But I love this stuff, and I can't do anything else right now. And this is how I felt when I was doing my Facebook game business. It's all I thought about. I didn't know what was going on in politics or whatever else. But it started to not get fun, and that's why I want to get out. I'm having too much fun with this, and I'm going to be here through this cycle, but who knows? I really might be totally out of the sector later, but I feel like I'm different from a lot of other people. I had a lot of people ask me, like, Nick, why don't you look at other sectors? Like, even cryptos or cannabis. I don't want to because it doesn't all kind of connect. I think that's just another thing that you have to figure out your strengths and weaknesses. Because I feel like going to CEO.ca every day and like Twitter every day. I mean, it's like an addict, but it's better to be addicted to this than Nintendo stuff, which I've been playing a little too much of. So I need to go back to this. But like, I absolutely have a pulse of the general market, and most other people don't, for whatever reasons. Either they don't have the time or they're distracted by other investments. And I can't even relate to you guys that much in real estate, even though I thought it was really cool to hear that conversation. It's like, I don't think about that stuff. This is all I think about. And so I just wanted to add that, it's like both. It doesn't feel like work. Like most of the time it really doesn't. If it starts to feel like work, I actually do less of it, even though like a lot of stuff I do probably could get paid for. But it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's right or wrong. And to Jay's point, it is very dangerous to get married to stocks. But I have stocks in my portfolio which I really don't want to trade. Mod resources we talked about earlier, I really just want to sit on that because everything's kind of in place, I think, for that to get taken out. And I may change my mind, but that's in one bucket. And then the other bucket are those shorter term trades, like with it's really like all about the drilling or all about me talking to management and getting into nitty gritty. So like even though it's probably safer and maybe wiser to like spread your money around and be doing lots of different stuff, like I definitely take this type of approach where I actually can't think of too many other people who do it. I do think Hedgeless Horseman does. I don't want to comment too much. I personally am a little wary of going all in on any one stock. I did want to mention that because I hope it works out for him, but I actually feel we have very similar kind of style and in how we go about this stuff, because I think he thinks about it 24/7. So it's very interesting to kind of look at across the landscape and see what people are like. Are they totally devoted to like the resource sector, or do they just hop from thing to thing? But I definitely could be out of this completely in 5 years, but I'm totally engrossed in it right now.